Here is a Hampton Bay branded 52-inch Quick Connect ceiling fan in the white finish with the bleached oak blades facing down. Let's see if we can get some informations on this. I believe this is from 2006. It's model number MV52V-WH 0.6 amps, 0.64 amps, and there it is, May 2006. Does it say the brand anywhere? I believe these were made by multiple different OEMs. There's the UL number. I know some people are able to decrypt the OEM based off of the UL number. So that's dated 03-05, which probably sold in summer of 2005. And this says May of 2006, which would mean probably sold in summer of 2006. That's quite a discrepancy there. I'm not sure which one is accurate. But either way, this would have been towards the end of these things. I don't know how much longer these were sold into the 2000s or if they made it into the 2010s. In fact, I really don't know much of anything about the Hampton Bay selection post 2008, because I believe that was the last year that the catalogs were offered. I have the catalogs from 2001 through 2008, and I remember seeing these in, I'm pretty sure, every single catalog. In the 2001 catalog, this was branded under Commercial Electric, and I'm not sure if Commercial Electric was like a Home Depot house brand or not. I know Hampton Bay is, but I don't know if Commercial Electric was or not. It's very warm in the house tonight, so we're going to go ahead and start this up, and then we'll keep talking about it in a minute. Oh, I forgot to do this here. It's on a wall control, but I want to show the factory speed for the video, so we'll start it up on low. While it's spinning up, I need to plug in the camera, because it's just about out of charge. Seems to be a common problem around here. I almost always film with the camera plugged in, and I don't pay attention to battery level because it's of no consequence under those conditions. Alright, that's just about up to speed now. So I put this in the kitchen here just temporarily because the cost of the electricity around here went off the charts in July, and it just simply became unaffordable to run the air conditioner on a regular basis. Now, I'm generally completely able to go without the AC as long as it's not oppressively humid, which tonight it happens to be. But I do need a good fan in order to do that. And so the fan that was in here before, the bearings were going out on it. And that had been an issue since I installed it, but I just typically would use that fan on low, mostly just for aesthetics. And so it didn't matter. But now that I need the fan on high, because the air conditioner is not on, I needed something that was working, and that just wasn't cutting it. So I put this in here just to finish out the year with something that we know moves good air and is pretty reliable. So this is the low speed. Actually fairly slow low speed. I would say it's about maybe right around 60 RPM. And it's still moving air. Actually, it's moving a decent amount too. You can see the plant here is moving. if you're sitting right underneath it, like if this was in a bedroom or something over the bed, this is plenty of air to feel some relief from the heat. Very quiet, don't hear any kind of weird noises or humming or any bearing sounds, which is kind of impressive in terms of the bearings, because this was new old stock. So this sat in the box for, was it 18 years? Never used, and then bearings are still good. The blades have pretty decent pitch to them. I don't know what the number is. I would say it's probably maybe 13 or 12. Now this is a much newer styling than what I typically go for. I much prefer traditional stuff, you know, brass, cane, etc., browns. But I kind of like these. These are major childhood fans for me. I remember seeing these all over the place back in the 2000s. Around here, these surfaced in a lot of commercial applications, and they held up too. I know of, even to this day, I could name multiple locations in the area that have had these running every single summer since the early 2000s, and they still work to this day. The one I saw the most was it was a local pizza restaurant, and there was two of these near where in between where the booths were, and they really kicked up some air during the summer. They were powerful fans, and they ran summer after summer all day. The owner kept them clean. They were in great condition. The place changed owners, and the interior was refinished. It was like the ceiling was white, the walls or whatever, I don't remember what they were, but it got refinished. It was everything was painted black, and I guess the fans were painted as well, because the fans are still there, and they're black now. So the fans were considered good enough by the owners that bought the place, or whatever the transition was that took place. The new owners thought the fan was good enough to keep and got them painted, I guess, and they're still there to this day, and they still work, and they're still used. They're installed, the two of them are installed on a 3-speed wall control, and they're both on downdraft, and they work great. I vaguely recall that sometimes they'd be switched to updraft. I don't know why it would have been changed around, but they were definitely valued by that restaurant and very heavily used, and the fans served well. Again, still to this day. And that's going back to the early to mid 2000s. So those fans are probably getting to be 20 plus years old at this point, and they're still working. And there's a whole bunch of other places I remember seeing. There's a thrift store near, actually it's not really near here, but there's a thrift store in the area that has 4 of these, no, 6 I think. They were in use through this summer. I'm sure they'll still be there next year. I gotta get a video of those. And they all work great, kept clean, run all on downdraft, again valued by the owner, and they serve well. I've seen these on vacation, I've seen them in commercial places, I've seen them in apartments. I see these things everywhere. Even to this day I still see a good number of them, and they just plain work, and they're standing the test of time, which is kind of surprising because these are from the capacitor plague era, and we're not seeing these come up with a whole bunch of bad capacitors. Some of the other Hampton Bay fans from the era, we are starting to see bad capacitors coming out, which stinks. So these have a ton of nostalgia to them to me. Super, super nostalgic fan. And as far as the appearance goes, even though this is a much newer, kind of more modern styling than I typically go for, I think it's overall a very decent looking fan. Everything is rounded, and there's no like a lot of the stuff today has got like sharp corners, flat edges. I don't like that. Everything, all the corners are rounded, the irons are rounded, the motor vents are rounded, everything's round, and that's, generally speaking, that's usually more attractive to the eye. The irons have got a little pattern on them. It's just an overall very aesthetically pleasing fan. It's very neutral. Even here in this room, now unfortunately all the trim was painted by the previous owner, which is kind of stinks. But we've got the darker floor in here with the darker colored stools, the darker colored lamp, the old hanging lamp. So, you know, that stuff's older. The trim is newer style. The ceiling is white. The walls are kind of a light brown. And with all these different things in here, it just blends in perfectly. It looks like it belongs there. Alright, let's go up to the medium. And 0.64 amps is not much power at all. It probably doesn't even draw that much. The blades do creak a bit as it changes speeds. I guess it's just because of the way the Quick Connect system is. Once it gets up to speed and it's running at its full speed, it doesn't make any more noises. On medium, I really still can't even hear it. And I am very particular about noisy appliances and fans. So if I tell you something's quiet, it's quiet. See the plant moving pretty good now. This is already moving more air than pretty much any ceiling fan you're going to buy today. You can hear a little bit of air movement, and that's about it. It's a very, very quiet piece. I've noticed in more recent times, like over the last couple months, that, and this is not an attack on anybody by any means, but I've noticed that a good number of collectors from all different types of equipment, air conditioners, fans, lighting, etc., many of which I have great respect for, have started to write off equipment just because it's not a particular number of years old. And that is something that I just don't understand. I like to look at equipment objectively. Like in this case, for a fan, does it move good air? Is it quiet? Is it easy to service, etc.? And if you can answer all those questions correctly, why is it not a good piece of equipment? I mean, there's so many people that trash talk this particular model. Say, oh, it's garbage. That thing's a piece of junk. Ugh, Hampton Bay. But it's powerful. It's reliable. It lasts a long time. It's inexpensive. It's easy to install. Like, objectively, how does that make it garbage? I think one of the best ways to tell if something is a good piece of equipment or not is to observe it in the wild. And when you see something installed, like a residential product installed commercially, which is a lot of the case with these, and it holds up and it lasts and lasts and lasts, and you still see a bunch of them around 2 decades later, that's a decent piece of equipment. And that's what we see with these. So I just don't understand how this is considered garbage. You can dislike it. There's plenty of reasons why you can dislike it. But to say it's garbage and trash talk it just because it's from the 2000s and it's not older, I don't get that. Let's move to the high. There's an ever so slight motor hum as it gets up to speed on high. I don't hear it when it's at full speed. I'm not sure if that's because it goes away or because the sound of the airflow drowns it out. You can definitely hear it moving here around on high. You can hear the blades cutting through the air. Not anything obnoxious. It's a perfectly reasonable noise level still. And now this is really pushing a decent amount of air. It's going pretty fast too. I think it's got to be at least like 250 RPM. The slight shake to it, I remember that with the ones at the restaurant too, but nothing major. Nothing I would even bother trying to correct. I don't know why this camera's not staying in focus. But it runs really good. Very quiet, very smooth, and very powerful. All the way on the other side of the kitchen. It's picking up this towel. That's moving it pretty good. That's a heavy towel. It's not a lightweight piece of toilet paper. And if I stand here, I can feel the air rushing up the wall. So all the way across the room, this fan's not on. All the way across the room, I can feel it. And this is the whole depth of the house here. It's got to be probably close to 20 feet or more. And it's pushing the air clear across the room. And actually, what I've been doing recently when I'm cooking, I don't use this anymore because, and this is what my uncle told me when I was putting the electrical in here. My mother says, "What are you gonna put a fan over there for?" And my uncle says, "He likes fans. There should be a fan there." And that was correct. But he also told me I'll never use it because he has a ceiling fan in his kitchen, and he never uses his because he has a gas stove and the airflow messes with the flame. And in my case, I don't have a gas stove, but whatever's on the table, you know, like if I got a bag of food or something on the table, you put the fan on, it just blows off. Or if I'm working with something like flour and you're pouring flour, it goes everywhere. Or if I'm using the stove even and I got steam coming up from a pot, the steam won't go up and out through the fan here because the air is moving around too fast. So over here when I'm cooking, I would only ever use this on low, if at all, because it just caused a problem. This, I actually get more relief from running this on high because the air is coming up from the floor and I feel the refreshing draft, but it's not disturbing the stove, it's not disturbing anything on top of the tables. So this actually works out better to have a stronger fan over there and just run that on high most of the time as opposed to having a 2. I'll probably always have the 2 for cosmetic reasons, but I just like fans, so why not have 2 of them. But in terms of functionality, I think it's actually better to have it over there or maybe in the center. I did install this box as a full-fledged fan box, same exact configuration as these other 2. So even though there's a light right now that can take the fan, the only limitation is it's a 3-way switch, so there's no separate control for the fan and light, which isn't really needed anyways. It's nice to have, but it's not essential. So this really works quite well. It's very powerful. It's quiet, it's reliable. It may not be vintage, however the heck you want to define that. Part of me hates that stupid vintage antique term garbage, just board games. I think from an objective standpoint, this is a very good product. And there is 0 bearing noise, which is impressive. Turn it off. I don't remember if I talked about this or not, but I think that there was different OEMs that made these things over the years. I think some of them were made by SMC. I think some of them were made by King of Fans. If anybody, I'm sure some people know that information. I know Max used to know all this stuff, but he doesn't post anything anymore. I'm not sure if he'll see this video or not. Um, but I found that bizarre that, and Hampton Bay did this with a number of fans. How do you have the same product, same cosmetic, same design, manufactured by multiple different OEMs? I just don't see how that would work with like licensing and patents and so forth. I also don't know if there was any performance difference between the different OEMs. I would imagine there must have been maybe a slight variance, I don't know. So I own 3 of these, and it would be super cool to do a triple install of these here in the kitchen. But one of the ones that I have, it's missing parts. So I only have 2 that are workable. I might throw the second one up, I'm not sure. Depends on how long the heat lasts. If the heat lasts another couple weeks, I might try to do the 2 Camerons in here, the blue Camerons. But if the heat doesn't last, I'll do that next year. I don't mind having 2 different fans in here. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. I don't mind it. I think I'd kind of prefer they be the same, because I like the novelty of having a dual install. I could do it in the computer room too, but it'd be a little bit much. In here, this room is big enough to handle a dual install nicely. So I kind of want to keep them the same for the novelty of having the dual install. So maybe if I can locate where the other one is, I will get it out and put it over there. Actually, that's not true. I have 4 of these, 3 in white, one of which is messed up, missing part. Oh, that's not true either. I actually have 5 of these. I have one in the, I think it's called oil rubbed bronze. I have one in the Flemish brass, I believe it was called. And then I have 3 in the white, 2 of which are good and one of them is missing parts. It would be pretty cool to do all 3 in here, one of each finish. Something to think about, something to consider for the future.